Webinar Pluck. My name is Candace. I'm one of the account managers here at Get Healthy, and today we're going to look at one of our brand promotions here with our partner with Pluck. So I have James here, and he is a professional chef. He's an entrepreneur and he's a father. So we were talking about kind of how he got the company started, and he was just saying, how can I get people healthy? So this brand has been around for about 3 years. So he's going to talk a little bit about, getting the brand started, what exactly the product is and how we can utilize it. I've learned a lot in just a few minutes talking with him. So I think you guys are going to find this product really interesting. So James, welcome.
Hi, Candace. Thank you so much for hosting this. Yeah, I'm really excited to share about this product. I think for most practitioners out there, anyone in the health field, I think it's safe to assume that most of us know about organ meat health. Like, we know that it's nutrient dense. We know that they're just packed full of nutrients. I mean, probably one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet. So I will go into that a little bit, some of that nutrition, but I think it's pretty safe to say we all know about that. The real issue, and I think the question we have to ask is, well, then why aren't we eating organ meats, right? So this is really very much a product about how to support people in getting organ meats into their diet. Now, I have been a chef for over 17 years. I've worked in the health field for that long. One of my specialties and kind of my mission as a chef was to really support people with their health, but not to do it in a way of like, oh, well, just do this, and then you just deal with the outcomes of like feeling like you're deprived or the emotions that pop up when you're going through a protocol. But it was really more so about like, how can I truly help people? How can I help them to sustain their health? How can I support their psychology so that they don't feel deprived? And how can I just make it so that the health protocol that they're on is achievable, that they reach their goal? And so I've always looked at cooking and food from that lens. And I'm truly excited to share that I think I have cracked the code around how to get organ meats into people's diets. Now, I just want to share real quick a perspective that I have and what that I've learned. So as most of us know, health is something we all strive towards, but it's very difficult to sustain. And for most of the practitioners out there, I think you can identify with this, is that it's really hard to get people to make changes to their diets unless they've either experienced a scare, like a health issue, or someone close to them has experienced a health issue. And because it kind of takes such a huge life event to make changes, I believe for us to take a diet and make it healthy and then make it sustainable, we have to hit two things. We have to make that food or diet easy, and we have to make it delicious. And if we hit those two things, we can then turn that diet or that health preference, that food preference, into something that's sustainable, to the point where, like, if we hit like COVID 25, no one is going to throw that health paradigm out the window because it's easy and it's delicious. So that is the goal, I believe, when we look at health, like food products. How can we make this achievable for longevity, sustainability? So that is the focus, and I believe that is what we've created here.
James, that sounds like a really good mission that you've set out. But I want to add one more thing. You said there's two things that kind of get people motivated with their health. Well, I think there's a third one that we kind of talked about before too. And I think that's becoming a parent. When we have little ones that we have to feed and we worry about them and we see what they eat. I think this would be a really good product for kids. When I look at something like this, how can you sneak in? How can you add just a little pinch of nutrition to your children? So do you want to speak to that?
Absolutely. So this is absolutely, I mean, I'm a father and I have two young daughters, 6 and 10. And so I actually was inspired to create this product. And I didn't actually know what the product was going to be, but I was really focusing on, well, my daughters were sick. They had Shiga toxin, and my youngest was about 2 or even a little younger. And it was really scary. For those that don't know, Shiga toxin is like a version of E. coli that is life-threatening for the elderly and the very young, for infant age. And I watched my then I think she was 6-year-old. She kind of got through it pretty quickly, but my youngest was already really thin, and she was just wasting away. And I had gone away for a work trip thinking that she was on the mend, and I came back and she was literally skin and bones, and it was so scary. She couldn't keep anything down. She was either diarrhea or vomit, and she just could not keep anything down. So there I was, just feeling very helpless as a father. You can't give antibiotics for Shiga toxin, that they'll actually do even more harm. So it was really that kind of like wait and see, like let her body do its magic, and just support her with getting his, keeping her hydrated, things like that, which was also challenging. So I was really thinking to myself, gosh, I wish I had a way to get nutrient density into this, very young child without there having to be any hurdle of like picky eating, or just making it really, really easy, because I couldn't necessarily give her capsules or anything like that. And so that was that kind of life trauma was what started me down this path of like, okay, well, asking the questions like, what are the most nutrient dense foods? Okay, organ meats. Okay, how do I, people are already making pates, and they're already trying to make them in foods. I mean, I hear all the time of parents, particularly mothers, saying, yeah, I make pate for my family every few weeks. No one eats it but me. And I'm like, yeah, that's the issue, right? So I was very much like, okay, so how do I get this nutrient dense food into the diet, into the family's food, but easily? And as you said, having it as a seasoning. So basically, I have a bunch of slides that we'll go into kind of some of the background of like why organ meats, why this is so important, but I'll just dive right into the product real quick. So the product, let's see, I'll even skip to, well, so here's the slide with, you see the 4 products. Right now we have the spicy, the zesty garlic, all-purpose on Get Healthy, and then we're going to be adding the pure. And what it is particularly the 3, the all-purpose zesty garlic spicy, is they have freeze-dried powdered organ meats, and we're using a 5 organ meat blend. We have liver, heart, kidney, spleen, and pancreas. And we're utilizing the modern technique of freeze drying. Freeze drying is they're taking the raw organ, they are then freeze drying it from that point. So it's not cooked beyond the freeze drying process. The freeze drying process does degrade it a little bit, but less degrading than even dehydrating. So it goes like raw is the most nutrient dense, freeze drying, dehydrating, and then drum heating and whatnot, and then all the way to cooking. So it's incredibly still nutrient dense. It maintains lots of the vitamins and minerals. And then what we're doing is we're combining that organ meat blend with spices and herbs, organic spices and herbs, to offset the flavor. So now getting organ meat nutrition is as easy as just seasoning your food. We call it nutrition in a pinch. You're literally just seasoning your food, no differently than something we're already doing. And what excites me about this, and hopefully people are already kind of getting this sense, is that this does not require a new habit. Like, we already season our food. And that's really, really important for longevity and sustainability. It's because you're not saying to someone, okay, here's this newfangled product, and you got to now do this whole new habit that is going to be really hard to adapt, and is probably going to get thrown out the window after a month. That's not this. This is, we already season our food. It's very ingrained in our society and in cooking. And I'm just saying, instead of Lowry's all-purpose, use this. And then what you're doing is you're getting amazing flavor, and then your superfood, you're basically turning every food you add it to into an organ superfood meal. And yet they won't know it. The kids won't know it. Most of the adults don't know it. And so you just have like easy assimilation of getting organ meats into your diet. And I would love to just kind of go into now, like just some of the whys, like why is this important, in case there's anyone out there that is just kind of questioning, well, I don't believe organ meats are the most nutrient-dense food. So let's just go into that. Is that okay?
Absolutely. And question 2, where I think this might fit in as well. Is this something you could add to your pet's food?
Yeah. So
Pure?
not the seasoning flavor, but the pure.
It's
Yes.
just talking about freeze dried and raw organ. I buy raw food for my dogs, and the next best thing that I kind of buy as a backup if I forget to, have it thawed or whatever stage we're in. We sometimes need a backup if we're traveling. The freeze dried is the next best. And, when I think of freeze dried, I don't typically think of like specific foods for me. I think of it for my pets. And,
Yeah, isn't that
people
funny?
spend so much money on their pets. And, here's a product I mentioned before, the price point is incredibly affordable. And for the amount of servings, you said there's about 100 servings, which will last you 45 days if you're doing it 3 times a day. That is, a really affordable, easy product. That's what people want. They want something that's easy to use. Like you said, we're already seasoning our food, and something that's affordable too, that's not going to be this new thing that we have to, add into our budget every month or find a new part of our day to implement it. This sounds like an incredible product to, implement and boost our nutrition.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'll definitely retouch on the pets, because that's a really important point. I'll go through some of these slides really fast, just so we can cover if anyone out there is like, do we really need organ meat nutrition? And the truth is we do. I mean, 92%, this is from a study that was done in 2015. So I believe this is actually closer to 95% now.
Yeah.
But it's 92% of the US population is deficient in at least one or more vitamin or mineral. Yet I think we can all attest to the fact that we're not calorie deficient. And that's a really important distinction. That is a sign then that it's not about that we're not eating enough food. It's about that we're eating the wrong foods, or foods that are not nutrient dense. And the question then is, well, why? Why is food not as nutrient dense? And this is something the government's been tracking actually since the 1960s. They actually measure the nutrient density in produce since then. And every decade they see it lower. So it's modern agricultural practices, it's general life stressors from, we're excessively high in sugar and carbohydrates, the pesticides, the GMOs, the stress, the disrupted sleep. I mean, the overuse of antibiotics, antacids, and anti-inflammatories. I mean, hopefully none of this seems abnormal to anyone that's watching this, because this is something we are all experiencing in modern life. So then what do we do? Where can we naturally get these organ meats or this nutrient dense food? And what I want to just make sure everyone understands is, so offal, OFFAL, is another word for organ meats. And they come up with that name because they think it refers to when you butcher an animal, it's the parts of the animal that fall off, offal. And a lot of people just think of offal as like liver and kidney, but it's really the entire animal except for the bones and the muscle meat. So that includes, as you see in this, the stomach lining, the hooves, the feet, the lips, the tongue, the brain, the digestive, what am I thinking? The intestines. So it really covers basically everything but the bone and the muscle. So that's really important. And there's this, and here's like a slide just to show you, when we talk about is organ meat like nutrient dense, like just look at when you compare it to anything else. And here you'll see in this, there's red meat, and we could still compare it to salmon and all that stuff. But just look at like the vitamin A, for example. It's not just a little bit higher, it's incredibly higher, like sometimes 300 times higher. And what's also kind of interesting is you'll see that in a lot of the other foods, some of the vitamins or minerals, it will say none. Well, notice in the beef liver, it hits every marker. Like there is some number in every single marker. And that's really important to notice, that we're just getting an amazing amount of nutrition from organ meats, particularly beef liver here. It's high in vitamins and minerals. It's what we call Mother Nature's multivitamin. And why that's important is because, like when you take supplements, sometimes you have to take them with food, right? Because they're fat soluble. Well, guess what? When you use it from a natural food like organ meats, it's already designed like that. It's already got the food is part of the supplement, right? So, and then complementary vitamins are together, so you have ones that support absorption that are already in there. There's iron and magnesium, you know what I mean? There's nothing that's isolated that's not going to support absorption, which then carries us to the bioavailability. This is vitamins and minerals as your body already recognizes, and it's in the most absorbable forms. But there's this last kind of concept that I want to touch on that I think a lot of people don't think about. This is an ancestral concept. It's called like supports like. And the idea is that if you eat heart, for example, it's going to support your heart. And it really does make sense because like heart is high in preformed coenzyme Q10. It's high in collagen. These are things that are going to support your own heart, let alone your own biological systems. Liver, it's high in vitamin C. It's the most concentrated food source of vitamin A. Sorry, I said C, but I meant vitamin A, retinol. It's important for reproductive health, eyesight, immune system, skin. You mean literally every biological system. You have kidney, high in folate, DNA repair, blood cell production. But then the question becomes, it's like, well, why aren't we eating these, right? Yeah. What is going on? And these are really the hurdles that I've identified. So we have this idea of this, there's the ick factor. We have this idea of that no matter, like the organs are just going to taste icky. And what's so fascinating about that is that whether you've eaten the organ or not, you think that. Like it's incredible how many people have never even tried them and go like, oh yeah, that sounds gross. But yet if I presented them a dessert they've never eaten, I guarantee they wouldn't make an ick face. They'd be like, oh, well, let me try it, right? So we are so conditioned. Our palate is so conditioned towards sweet. Our psychology is so conditioned towards desserts and sweets, and savory kind of gets pushed aside. And so that's one thing, is there is a psychological hurdle right away with taste. Texture is another part of that. It's slimier. It's something that we're not used to. Muscle meat is not as slimy. We've just lost the kind of textures familiarity that we used to have, because really our ancestors used to eat organ meats. And when I say ancestors, I'm talking like our grandparents.
Yeah,
not that long ago. Sourcing has become an issue in that a lot of people don't know where to buy them, even though, yes, we have the internet and you can pretty much find almost everything you want on the internet. People still feel kind of restricted. They're just like, well, I don't see it in my local grocery store, so that means I don't know how to buy it. So I get it, source. And then also a lot of ranches and a lot of stores, they only carry very restricted amounts. Like there's certain parts of the animal, like I mentioned that Pluck has pancreas and spleen. Try finding that in your local grocery store. You're never going to find spleen and pancreas, right? Let alone heart sometimes, right? So sourcing is an issue depending on where you live. And then the other issue is like, well, how do I cook them? Like, okay, now you've gotten your butcher box, you've gotten your quarter of cow, and you just got, you know, some part of offal in your box, and you're like, but what do I do with it? So we've lost that art of cooking it, and which all kind of boils down to it's just unfamiliar. There's just this unfamiliarity with it. And I believe that Pluck has solved all of those. So Pluck, as we mentioned, is that we've got 4 products. It is truly the gateway to eating organ meats. It is the easiest way to get those 5 organs into your diet. It does not get easier, because here's the deal. You do not need to know how to cook. Like you could get food to go and just sprinkle it over the food. Yeah. You could go to someone's house. They did the cooking and like just sprinkle it over your food. Like it's that easy. It's literally as easy as seasoning your food. No cooking required. I mentioned already, it's got the 5 organs: the liver, the kidney, the spleen, the heart, and the pancreas. And now we've also removed the ick taste, because it truly does taste delicious. So what Pluck has is it has this umami flavor, which we would kind of classify that as savory. But what's really fascinating is, so we have the 4 focus flavors: the sweet, the salty, the bitter, and the sour. Those are our taste bud points, right? So umami is a unique one. And what's fascinating about umami is that it actually heightens the other one. So it makes food, when you add it to it, it makes food in general taste better. And similar to salt, when we are low in salt, we put it in on our tongue, our body gives us immediate communication of like, I either need more of this or less of it. Well, what's so fascinating is when kids taste Pluck, I believe it's the umami in Pluck that kind of like awaken their taste buds, particularly since they're very skewed towards sweet, as we identified earlier. Sweet and salty, because most packaged foods, that is what most packaged foods are. But so kids put it on their tongue, they taste it, and they're just like, oh, this is so good. They don't want to stop. They just keep putting their finger in the bag and eating it. And then what's also interesting is I think we're also tapping the same thing that, let's say, salt is because we're not swallowing the nutrition, we're eating it, right? So we're not removing our natural digestive process. we're getting immediate communication, just like we do when we get salt on our tongue. The organ meats, I believe, when the kids get it in their system is like, oh, give me more. Like it's communicating to the body of like, I need more of this. And it's fascinating because I have been told by countless parents like, oh yeah, my kid loves this. They ask for it on everything. And if we run out, they literally cry. It's like a physical, like emotional response of like, give me more. And I really, really believe that is not just that the product's delicious. I believe it's because our bodies, as we identified earlier, we are nutrient deficient. Our bodies are screaming for this food.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely something that people can easily incorporate. I mean, I have a little one, and I know he would like this because we've set him up. He's got a pretty good palate to begin with, but I have so many friends that struggle with getting nutrition into their little ones, and they don't even know where to begin. They don't have easily available things like this, let alone affordable. So this is just an incredible product. The more you keep talking, the more I'm like, adding
Like,
adding each flavor to my cart.
yeah, that's awesome. So as I mentioned, we're using the 5 freeze-dried powdered organs. I mentioned what those are, and really this is now going in. I mentioned sourcing is an issue for people. Well, we did it for you. We sourced 100% grass-fed cows, and they're from New Zealand. New Zealand is an island, so their nose to tail industry is very, very developed. Like that is one of their major exports. They export a lot of organ meats to China, and it's how that country makes a lot of their money. So it's very dialed in. They're an island, so they can truly, and due to the weather, they are able to control what they put on the grasses. So it's non-GMO. They don't do any added hormones. Lately people are asking, are cows getting vaccines? They do not do that. They do not put vaccines in cows because if it's for human consumption, it's illegal for them to do that. So the key is this is extreme quality. In New Zealand, they're able to grass feed the animals entire year. So it truly is 100% grass fed. A lot of time we talk about grass fed, grass finished. All cows are grass fed. And a lot of times in the US, when they're grass finished, it's not green grass that they're getting finished because most areas environmentally can't have their cows out on pasture all year round. In New Zealand, they can. So you really are getting extreme quality. And so then when we look at the products, I mentioned it's 100% certified organic spices and herbs. You got the pastured organ meats. And so here's the 3 products that are seasoning that are currently available on Get Healthy. You can see what's in them all here. It's the first 2, the all-purpose and the spicy. And I want to say a lot of people think the spicy is going to be crazy spicy. It's actually mild spicy. It's a really great taco seasoning. It's just a really great like blend where you get heat, but it's not overly doesn't blow out your taste buds. Because as a chef, I noticed that whenever we do really spicy stuff, really what we're doing is we're blowing out our taste buds. So we don't taste anything. We don't get any flavor. We just taste heat. But I like flavor. So I made it so that you get flavor, and then heat at the end. We're getting told a lot of people love spicy, but those 2 have some nightshades in it. It has smoked paprika, mustard seed, but then the Pluck zesty garlic for anyone out there that has clients that are AIP, autoimmune protocol. That's your ticket. Zesty garlic has no nightshades, has no seeds. It kind of has like a ranchy taste to it. It's really delicious. I find all 3 of them are like, I personally use all 3 of them. So I like having all 3 at a time, like just available. So I can just kind of pick my, go off of what I'm feeling that day. But they're all very, very delicious. And you can add them pretty much, it's incredibly versatile. So you can add them to, honestly, everything. Like we joke like, oh, you can add them to everything but ice cream. But we've had clients add them to ice cream and be like, no, actually, it was really delicious. So, honestly, I say you go crazy. You use it on everything. My kids put it on their toast, on popcorn, on rice, with pasta, on meats, fish, chicken. And even though it's coming from cows, you're not restricted to just, beef. Like you could put it on lamb, fish. If you're someone who's a vegetarian, you could put it on tofu. Like it's incredibly versatile, and it just adds a really delicious umami to the dish. And then this is the one that this is the the item that we're talking about for pets. So going back to pets and humans. So this is Pure, which will be available on Get Healthy probably by the time you see this or very soon. So one of the questions we get asked from people is like, well, but how much nutrition am I really getting if it's just a pinch of, spices and herbs? Well, here's the deal. Microdosing plus frequent use equals cumulative effect. So I'm really all about sustainability. Like that I mentioned, I want health to be something that's sustainable, not just like, oh, I did it for 3 weeks and now I'm done. So how do we make something sustainable? Well, we do it in moderation. Whenever we do anything in the extremes, that means it's not going to last long. We are human. We are not people that live constantly in extremes. We can't survive. That's fight or flight. We cannot survive in extremities. So what is beautiful about this product is that you can use a little bit every meal. And as you mentioned earlier, one bag lasts an entire month. If you're putting it on 3 meals a day, it lasts for about 45 days for the flavors. And for this one, for the Pure, 40 days. And so what you just put it on everything, and every day you're getting a little bit of the nutrition. And whenever someone goes like, well, is microdosing, does it really work? I say, well, let's look at glyphosate. Let's look at the other side of the fence. Glyphosate, Monsanto put that in Roundup. When it came out in the 50s, they said it's just micro amounts of glyphosate will not affect human health. And when we're talking micro amounts, it's even smaller amounts than what's, like this has much more micro. The micro amount of this is more macro than what they had glyphosate in Roundup. And yet now, skip to our present day, glyphosate's in our water, it's in our soil, it's in our air, it's in our food, it's in the breast milk. Like we cannot get rid of it, and it's killing us. It's slowly killing us. So microdosing works. The key is let's microdose with positive, like health affirming food, not things that are hurting our health. Now, for anyone that's like, well, I don't care about flavor, I just want 100% nutrition. Well, boom, here's Pure. Pure is 100% organ meat. There's no salt and there's no seasoning. So this is ideal for pets. This is ideal for anyone that's AIP. This is ideal for anyone that just wants to add it to like smoothies, to sauces. And it has a neutral flavor, a little bit of a meaty flavor, but you literally can just add it to anything that already has flavor. The other 3 add flavor. This one just adds the nutrition. And we recommend with this one about half a teaspoon, between a half a teaspoon and to a teaspoon a day. Like what's beautiful about this over capsules. Now, I'm all for nose to tail. So if you're doing capsules, great. I just want you to get organ meat nutrition. But here's why I like eating my nutrition over swallowing it. And I identified it earlier. When we eat the nutrition, we don't bypass our natural digestive process. When we swallow it, like in that example I gave around salt, if I put salt on my tongue, I get that immediate communication, and my body will tell me to stop. Like, have you ever noticed, like you put it on your tongue, salt tastes really good, and then when you don't need more, it doesn't taste good. Like you literally couldn't take another bite. It's that it just starts to taste really bad. That's immediate communication. Well, if I took a salt tablet, I would get a delayed response. I might take that tablet and then later feel bloated because I got too much salt.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And digestion starts in the mouth. And even if you smell something, you smell your favorite food cooking, your mouth starts salivating.
Exactly.
That's the natural response of digestion starting to work before you even taste the food, before you even see the food. Your senses know it's coming, and it starts preparing your body for what's next.
Totally. And it's so key. I mean, many of us already have capsule fatigue. We're already taking so many supplements. So the more we can actually eat our nutrition, that is what I vote for. I really believe it's better to eat the nutrition, because then the body can tap its intuitive knowledge of what it needs or doesn't need. So that's why I love this product, because it's no capsules. It's the same ingredients that are already in the capsules. Like it's the same quality. And there are capsule blends that have the 5 organs in them, but there's just no capsule. So you can just spoon it into your smoothies or into your blends, or you can take it in ground meats and kind of mix it in. Whatever you desire. So that's why I love this product. And then it's like, well, how do I use it? And I've been talking about it already. Like you see my daughter, she's sprinkling it on her avocado toast. Here you can add Pluck Pure or any of the flavors to the ground meat. Now in the photo, they just put it on top, but I would recommend mixing it in. I recommend using it as a finishing salt. So if your food's already cooked or plated, then you sprinkle Pluck on. And that's because we want to maximize the nutrition. We want to maximize the flavor. When you cook anything, you degrade it slightly. So heat degrades vitamins and minerals. Even if it's in a whole food, it still degrades them. So that's why I love it as a finishing salt. If you can see it, the other photo is my other daughter. I don't know if our photos are in the way, but you can see my daughter, and she's got it on popcorn right there. So really, really versatile, very easy. And here's the 4 offerings. And as you mentioned, I think it's a very affordable way to get organ meats into your diet. And we get a lot of great feedback that once people have tried it, what's cool about it is like that, yeah, you are getting the organ meat, but it also tastes really good. Like they're just great, like seasoning blends. So on like one level, it's just a really good seasoning blend. And oh, I also get organ meat nutrition. Boom. It's a win-win.
Honestly, it's an incredible product, and much more powerful than, other things that I've seen. I use things like nutritional yeast to top on to some food. And like I mentioned before, my little one has a pretty good palate. I'll, just kind of spoon it to him when he was real little, try to get extra nutrition into him. And as you mentioned, when kids are kind of lacking, or they know it's something good for them, it's what the body needs, they kind of crave it. So he would say like, more. I'd give him a little, tiny spoonful of coconut oil, and he would want more and more. So I started mixing those two together to make like a little, paste form, just a little nutritional supplement that I kind of made. But this is something so easy to incorporate to your food. I'm thinking of already putting it into one of my clear glass shakers, to top off anything that we make. These flavors have a good variety. I think you need one of everything just to
that's how I like it. I mean,
have a variety.
I like it a lot that way. And yeah, you can totally repurpose another, a glass jar. We do sell on our site like seasoning jars, but that's not available on Get Healthy. But yeah, absolutely, you can it's easily added to any other spice jar. And what's kind of cool too with the Pure product that we'll have available soon is, if for some reason, because I know out there a lot of practitioners are dealing with clients that are really food restricted. They can't eat certain things. Well, guess what? If there's any ingredient in the 3 seasonings that don't fit your food protocol, just get them Pure, and then they can add that to any of their seasonings and make their own
good
Pluck.
point. Yeah. We have a lot of people that do testing for, inflammation food tests, and they find that, like bananas or garlic, something that is nutritious for you, is just a sensitivity, and you need to take a little break from it. So even if it is garlic or cayenne, some of the ingredients, onion that we saw in there, the Pure would absolutely be a good option for people like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really like, it all goes back to the mission, right? So the mission again is, how can I support, as a chef for me, and hopefully for you as a practitioner, it's like, how can I support? I think there's the illusion of health out there. We all know what I'm talking about there. There's tons of different modalities, tons of different perspectives on what health is. But for my money, I really believe it's undeniable how nutrient dense and bioavailable the nutrition in organ meats is. And so really then it's about, how do we get it in our own diets? How do we get in our clients' diets easy and deliciously, so that they'll do it all the time? Because if they only do it once a year, yeah, it's gonna help a little bit, but not much. So to me, it's about, let's get it in their diet all the time, and get it. I like to call it like the Netflix of health. Like, so when something's really easy and delicious, it just goes on autopilot, and you don't even think about the cost. You don't even think about like, you can even probably, set it on subscription with Get Healthy, so that it just comes, all the time, go on autopilot with it. And then you just have it, and it's there, and it's just what you always use. And now you're getting that micro dosing, frequently, and then you're just feeling better. And we do, I know there's this one thing that we talked about before that I want to share, because I think this is so incredible. And I have gotten this feedback from practitioners. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I remember saying this, you guys. This is so cool. As practitioners, I think you're going to flip over this. So I did not know this when I created this, okay? But I have gotten feedback. We're going in our like third year. So I've gotten lots of feedback from customers, from practitioners that use this product. And so I learned recently that a practitioner was working with a client whose child is spectrum, and most spectrum kids have a very, very limited diet. They're very sensitive to flavors, they're very sensitive to textures, right? So this child was only eating like 4 or 5 foods. And this practitioner had the instinct. She said, look, she told the mother, just start adding Pluck to those meals. Don't even tell your daughter, just start adding Pluck. Well, the mother then reported not too long later that her daughter, loved the food, and her palate went from being very kind of picky and restricted to more adventurous. She's now eating more foods.
Wow.
So, mind blown, like, oh, and then as I started thinking about it, I'm like, this makes so much sense. You can actually, there is a way to change someone's diet, not just through the food you're providing, but through the palate. Because like I said earlier, we have those, there's the 5 flavors, right? The 5 flavors. Well, we're all skewed towards salty and sweet. So how do you change the palate? You start incorporating more sour, bitter, and umami flavors into the diet. And you do it slowly and gradually. And eventually, now the child is more open to those flavors. And I literally, ever since I've been sharing this story, more and more practitioners are using these with clients and their kids that are incredibly like picky and restricted. And everyone is reporting like, oh my God, my kid is now more adventurous. They have more energy. They just seem healthier in general. And I'm like, yeah, like microdosing, frequent use, cumulative effect.
That's incredible. Yeah, and I think we can all understand, sneaking it in, you're getting the nutrition, but opening up their palate and making them more adventurous and, their diet and what they're, preferring to eat. That's truly incredible, James. I think you've done an amazing job with this product, with your making something that's for your kids and for so many more people, spectrum kids. That's so incredible to see. I'm definitely sold on this product. I think it's incredible. Definitely something that fits in with my lifestyle and, kids, family. I'm going to be recommending this to so many more parents that are struggling with getting nutrition into their kids. My dogs might even get a little extra too. So this is
Oh yeah,
truly incredible.
I'll share a quick story. Cats, because cat and dogs really, I mean, those are our pets normally, right? And so cats tend to be pickier. And my cat, it has to eat the same food all the time because she's got a sensitive constitution. Well, she sometimes just won't eat her food. And so I started sprinkling pure on top of it. And when I sprinkle on my food, you don't need to do much. I mean, I'm talking like a pinch, like an eighth of a teaspoon, because it's the smell really for them, right? So eighth of a teaspoon, I sprinkle on, and she goes crazy. Like literally, she'll start jumping up, like she's like freaking out. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then she eats her food.
Yeah.
So really cool.
Truly incredible, James. Well, thank you so much for getting on here with me today to just talk about this product a little more. Thank you for having it available in the Get Healthy store now that we'll have all 4 flavors available. We really appreciate what you're doing and for sharing this with us and everyone with Get Healthy.
Thank you.
Thanks, James.